The term toxic masculinity has a lot of problems with it.
Hit me with it.
People will say, well, not all masculinity is toxic. There's non-toxic masculinity.
I mean, my personal preference, and I think the preference of literally every man I know who works in this field, is to say healthy or positive masculinity, but so far so good.
Well, first of all, being not toxic is not a hugely aspirational goal for many of us.
Yeah, that would be one of the reasons why we don't use it.
So first of all, horrible framing, non-toxic.
Again, though, this is your framing. Like, this is a textbook straw man argument.
But then you say, okay, so what does non-toxic masculinity look like? And people very often say things like, well, that's where you're more emotionally vulnerable, you're much more caring, you're nurturing.
I would add courage, resilience, dependability, strength, leadership. That honestly, there isn't any stereotypically masculine attribute that doesn't have the potential to be positive or healthy in some way.
And then you say, and how is that different to stereotypical femininity, maybe positive femininity?
So, honest question here, is this a conversation that you have had with real people out in the world? Or is this just for the benefit of feeding your own point? I don't know a single person who has studied or promotes or talks about healthy masculinity who wouldn't have been able to provide some masculine characteristics too.
No. Well, it isn't really.
No, what it isn't really is different from simply being a good human being.
And then what you're doing is you're presenting boys and young men with a choice between being toxic and being female.
Now, this is absolutely horrible framing. It is a preposterous misrepresentation of the sort of work that the men and women and gender nonconforming folks who talk about positive and healthy masculinity actually do. Choice has never been either or. It is, in fact, about rejecting that false choice. Because a healthy, a positive gender practice is always both and.
It is true that men take more risks than women, on average. Distributions overlap. But men have a higher risk appetite, or a less risk averse, if you want to put it that way. Is that a good or a bad thing about men? And the answer is yes, it is a good and a bad thing about men. And so, is it better to have a more stereotypically female approach to risk or male? And the answer is neither. We need both.
And bizarrely, this point here makes me think that you understand that? You've misrepresented the arguments of your peers in order to present our points, but make it sound like you came up with it yourself? Yeah, stereotypical masculinity contains both good and bad aspects, healthy and destructive. So somehow I disagreed with you at every step along the way, and we ended up at the same conclusion. Yeah, this was bizarre.